Alrighty, guys, let's try this again. It's been one of those days, let me tell you. Let me tell you what. Sorry that took so long. Apparently, I started the Aftershock up, and I had all kinds of technical issues. Like, I was trying to get the stream started. It said my stream key wasn't right, and I was like, I have a persistent stream key. It should be good all the time. So I'm like, oh, whatever, Facebook, I'll change the stream key. Fine. So I changed the stream key, and I'm streaming. And I'm talking away for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I look down, I've got 4 people watching, and I thought, wow, I did take a little bit longer to get started, but we'll give it a minute. And then all of a sudden, I was like, I can't see any comments about who's, on the program right now, so I go refresh Facebook over here, and all I can see is the radio show. There's no video for the Aftershock. I'm like, this is so weird, right? Facebook, for some reason, looped me back into my personal Facebook account, and I was doing a live stream on my personal Facebook account as opposed to on the Schrock Innovations page. It has been, I think I need a vacation. It's been a Sunday, guys. I'm sorry about all the technical glitches today. It's, I don't know if my brain is not working right. I got good sleep last night. Maybe that's the problem. Properly caffeinated, everything is fine, and yet not. All right, good morning, Ron. Good to have you. Karen and Roger are here. Randy's here. Thanks for joining us from Northwest Missouri, Pat. Good to have you, Al. So I guess, first off, I want to find out, what do you guys want to talk about? Anything that, it's all fair game, whatever you guys have questions about, I'm happy to opine upon. From the service centers this week, though, I spent a lot of time in the Omaha Service Center this week. It was extremely busy in there. There were times, normally, we're down a front desk there. We just hired that position, so she's going to start in a couple weeks. She's putting in notice with her current employer. But normally with a front desk, we would have been busy. But I was in there, 2 guys, we had 2 techs in there. And between the phones and the customers coming in the front door, and of course the work on the bench, it was 3 people busy, and in a good way. In a good way, I'm not complaining because it sure beats the alternative. Trust me, I've been there. But wow. And the best part about this is, we're not busy because people's stuff is breaking faster than normal, or there's some kind of rampant virus going around out there, or anything like that. We're busy because people are making decisions about their technology on their own terms and upgrading things or changing things in a way that saves them the maximum amount of money. And that's something, and it's really cool to know that we're able to help people like that, to be able to sit down and say, you trusted us 9 years ago to buy a computer from us, and now because you trusted us 9 years ago, we are able to upgrade that computer today, just like we said we could back in the day, but we're able to upgrade that computer now to something that is current and phenomenally great. In fact, a lot of people are taking the Ryzen 3 upgrade, which is the least expensive chip available, to get yourself Windows 11 compatible. But some customers are going Ryzen 5. We've had a few go Ryzen 7 because, it's just incrementally, it's like $75 more to get a Ryzen 5, and the processor is 3 times better, 2 times better. The Ryzen 7 is wickedly better, and that one is about $150 more. So, it's if you're doing the work anyway and you're getting the deal on the labor, it makes a lot of sense to do it. So I know a lot of you watching, I'm probably preaching to the choir because all of you have taken your holiday specials in and gotten them upgraded. But if you're one of the few that haven't done that already, I would really encourage you to take a look at this special. The special's going on through the end of the month, where it's literally half off the labor. So we're saving you up to $250 potentially when we do one of these upgrades for you. It's just amazing, and customers love it. So, and when customers are happy, I'm happy. We've had one hiccup, like with Don with his file, but it sounds like that might be just some confusion about where the file is located, which is perfect because that would explain everything we've been dealing with. But I guess I'm going to use that as an example. We had one customer who had one file, and he said, I have 6 months of data that appears to be missing. And we went into crisis mode. We scoured every inch of the Omaha Service Center. I was there with Trenton while he did it, looking to see if we could find Don's missing 6 months of data. Now it turns out that maybe we just have the wrong file name the whole time, and maybe there's a different file that we need to open that'll have all the data in it. That would be phenomenal if we could find that. And that would explain everything. It would explain why the backup that we have automated software that does the backup. It's not like a human does it and a human can make mistakes. The software does the backup, and if there's an error, it generates an error log that's part of the backup. So we can literally look at the error log and say, oh, look, that file didn't get copied. It should have gotten copied. There were no errors in his log. We have the backup still. When we restored the backup to his computer, all the files restored, used the same software to restore it that we did to back it up, restored all the files to the proper places. Literally, we did the job perfectly, but our customer still says that he's missing 6 months of data. So just because we can't figure out what went wrong or what we might have done wrong or something went wrong, guys lost 6 months of data, right? We got to find the data for him. And literally, I was at the point, the last email that I sent back and forth, that Trenton sent back and forth on this was, is there a possibility that maybe you saved the file somewhere else, like a flash drive or maybe on an external hard drive, that maybe we're looking at the wrong file, because nothing else makes sense. We've eliminated every other possibility. That's the only one that's left. And you don't want to suggest that, especially in a situation where you have Don's been with us for years, long-time customer, great customer. And, we want him to be happy. And, you don't want to take one of your long-time best customers and be like, are you looking at the right file, maybe, or looking at the wrong piece of data? Maybe it's you. You don't want to do that. And so, it's one of those things, but we've eliminated everything else. It's got to be another file there. And then to have that call today it was good for my soul, because literally last night, I'm not joking, last night I was laying in bed, and for some reason, I don't know what it is, Saturday nights I have the hardest time falling asleep. I don't know if it's because I'm anxious about having to get up so early Sunday morning to do the radio show, because I get up about 5:40 on Sunday morning to get in here and get everything set up and get the microphone plugged in, get all that done. I was even early today. Maybe that was it. Maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Anyway, so I was laying there last night, and literally, I'm thinking about Don's missing 6 months of data. Like, what am I not seeing? Where there's got to be a solution for this. What am I not figuring out here? And I can guarantee you, I know Trenton was extremely stressed, because he's not used to having customers come back on him like, hey, my data's missing, because that doesn't happen. We have procedures in place to make sure that doesn't happen. When we replace your hard drive, we hold on to your old hard drive for 14 days before we wipe it, just in case something doesn't get transferred properly. Once in a great while, we'll have a customer that's using some, that maybe saves a file in a weird place. I keep all my important files in the recycle bin. We literally had that happen once. A customer got really upset when we emptied the recycle bin. We're like, you keep your important files in the trash can? Do you keep your food in the dumpster? Like, why would you do that? That makes no hacker will think to look in the trash can. Oh my God, really? So, we emptied the trash can, and the guy was really upset, and that was bad. But that's only happened one time. We've only had that happen one time. So literally, we're like, what am I missing? It's got to be here. I was talking to Trent, I'm like, look for shadow copies. Like, the little shadow files that open up. It was just a nightmare all the way around. But we went through all that over 6 months of data in a file that we couldn't even figure out how it could have possibly been lost, because we have a copy of the file, but the contents of the file were too old. So anyway, those are the kind of people, and I mentioned we're hiring for the Omaha Service Center. Those are the kind of people we're looking for. I'm looking for the kind of people that care about customers, that care about customer experiences, that care about doing the job right the first time, making sure that the customer is taken care of. I'll give you a great example. Let's say you come in for a Windows 11 upgrade, and you're going to spend, let's say, $500 on it. One of the toughest things, especially for younger guys, to understand is that it's not there. Don't project your budget onto what needs to be done. What needs to be done is what needs to be done. So if this customer comes in and they're infected with malware. They're running McAfee. They don't have a secure updater install. They're not running Drive Advisor. Maybe they got lost along the way somewhere. Maybe they never had it. Maybe they had the computer before we launched any of those programs. You still suggest them. Why? Well, Thor, you want us to sell this stuff. Well, of course, we have to sell things to stay in business. That's how we stay in business. But more importantly, we never sell a customer something they don't need, ever. Because if you do that, if you start doing that, you go down that road, and you start telling people they need an air filter replacement when they don't, or that your headlights need to be replaced and they don't, or whatever the case might be. When you start going down that road and you lose that trust, number one, it's hard enough to retain employees right now when you're telling employees they have to scam customers to get a paycheck. Could you imagine trying what kind of people you're going to get that are willing to do that? I can guarantee you that if I sent down a directive to my employees that they needed to sell a particular item to a customer, I'm just trying to make something up. Let's say, let's say that suddenly we decided that we wanted to sell everybody case fans. That your computer's cooling is incredibly important, and cooling adds years of life to a computer. So you should add a case fan to the computer. The case fan is only $50, and there's an hour of labor to install it, but you need case fans. And I said, guys, every computer that comes in here, you sell them a case fan, every single one, need it or not. I would probably lose half of my staff within a week, because morally they're just not going to do that, because they know. Now, there can be debates among technicians. We do have some red lines. For example, we do not recommend any antivirus except for Sophos under any circumstances. We don't install any antivirus except for Sophos under any circumstances. You do a backup wipe and install, you have Norton on your computer, you want to reinstall your Norton, you can reinstall your Norton. Because once we do it, we have to warranty it, and I ain't warrantying Norton with LifeLock or McAfee or Secure IT, or AVG, or Avast, or any of those things. So we have some things that some of my techs might argue, if you're careful, you could use, Avast and be okay. Well, you know what? People aren't careful. Persons can be careful. People are not careful. And when we're creating an antivirus solution to protect people, it needs to be thorough, it needs to be precise, and it needs to get the job done. That's why we like Sophos. So you're going to sell Sophos. That's something that everybody understands, that the company has requirements, has standards of what it considers to be adequate for customers, standards that are consistent with the standards that I put forward on the radio show. But finding someone with that integrity is really difficult to do. And so that's why it takes us so long to find people. We have 2, 3, 4 people that we'll interview for each position that we hire. Some of them will start, they don't even make it through 90 days because either they decide it's not a good fit, or we decide it's not a good fit. We recently had a guy that used to work for us way back in the day in the Lincoln Service Center. He wanted some part-time work, and so he came in to work for us part-time, and he maybe worked for me 8 years ago. Great employee 8 years ago. I haven't worked with him since, obviously, but he was a good kid 8 years ago, stable, showed up for shifts on time, cared about customers, did the work right, the whole bit. The level of advancement in our policies, procedures, and the way that we do things, and our strict adherence to complying with them. You label every AC adapter that comes in the door. You label if you take a part out of a computer, you label it. You put a piece of painter's tape on it with a Schrock tag number. If it's a battery, I don't care. If you take 5 parts off a laptop, I expect 5 pieces of blue tape. Because the one time you don't do it is the one time you're going to lose a hard drive or lose someone's battery or something stupid, or their AC adapter. Or a customer will say, I brought one in, and you didn't note on the work order whether it had it or not, and the one that's with it doesn't have a label, so is it theirs or is it ours? We don't really know, right? So when this guy came back after being gone for 8 years and saw the progression of everything that we had done in the service centers, wow, that is really loud. That's a little better. when he saw the progression of everything that was done in the service centers and the amount of accountability, the new online system that we have literally is accountable to the person for every action, every note, everything. You process a payment, I know what employee did it. You open a work order, I know what employee did it. You close a work order, I know what employee did it. You edit a work order, I know what you edited and what employee did it. He quit. I don't know. He thought it was going to be like 8 years ago, where it was kind of loosey goosey and everything was on paper and kind of good to go. The world has changed, guys, and what you expect from us has changed, and what I expect from my people has changed. It's a lot to demand from some of these kids that are coming in to work for us have never had another job. This is their first job. Like, we're teaching them to come to work on time. We're the new McDonald's. What the heck? But we have a system that they can step into that is structured enough that within 90 days, they're getting cookie deliveries from customers and customer reviews, customers specifically calling and asking for them. Like Frank in the Papillion Service Center hasn't even been with us for 60 days yet, and he's got customers that only want to work with Frank. He's just good, and that finding those diamonds in the rough are what we really try to do. All right, let's go back to comments here. I have a Gateway laptop running Windows 11. I use it only for financial items. Recent update will not install. I've read other users having the problem. They mentioned it's a third-party tool. Don't use the third-party tool. The third-party tool is a scam. They put those websites up so that people who are searching for the installation error will then see that and then go get the tool. A lot of times the tool will introduce what are called potentially unwanted programs to the computer, the coupon printer, the Wave browser, things like that can later be used to leverage attacks on the computer. So you don't want to install that. If there's an update, if you have a Gateway laptop running Windows 11 with that specific update, let me just do a quick search just to do my due diligence here. Won't install. Okay, preview, Windows 11, direct download. Let me see, what does this update do? It's a cumulative update. Could not install the update. What to do? You can use the attached batch script to delete the Windows update file in Windows 11 and see if that resolves the issue. And then there was no response. So it looks like it could be that that there's a problem with the Windows 11 installation, that it is not downloading Windows updates. Now, Windows 11, I believe, has an update troubleshooter. Let me take a look. Update troubleshooter Windows 11. Let me make sure before I just tell you. Fine, whatever. Run the Windows 11 update troubleshooter to fix update. Okay. Yep. So you click on Start, and then you click on Settings, which is the gear, and then you go to System, and then you click on Troubleshoot. Go to Other Troubleshooters and run the Windows Update Troubleshooter. It's going to go through and do everything that batch file that they wanted you, the creepy batch file they said to download is going to do. It will clean up all of the Windows 11 update settings files and allow Windows to recreate them upon restart. Run that troubleshooter, reboot the computer, try again, see if that solves the problem for you. But hopefully that takes care of it. But you see, that solution right there, that's a 2-minute or less solution that we would have done for free on the phone for somebody, just like I did here. We would have stepped you through it a little more slowly, like click Start, click Settings, that, because you're doing it with us while you're going through. And maybe it fixes it, and if it doesn't, then we can say, hey, we tried, bring it in, let us take a look at it. It'll be an hour of labor, but we'll take a look and see what we can figure out for you. If it solves it, great. Now you know you have a place that you can trust that's not going to nickel and dime you on every easy little problem that can be fixed with a troubleshooter. We want you to come to us when you have a real problem. We want you to come to us when you're ready for real security. We want you to come to us when these updates come out so that we can make sure your computer doesn't get knocked out by this thing. This is going to be a nightmare, guys. I am not looking forward to this safe upgrade. Safe upgrade every 6 months is like clockwork. I have no problems with it. It's the same spiel every radio show. Pretty much everybody runs it. The customers that buy it pretty much buy it repeatedly. So now we've gotten to the point where people have run it enough times, they know kind of what the deal is, they know what to expect, they know how it behaves. The number of calls we get has gone down as far as support calls for the software. Running great. And now this is going to be a royal Charlie Foxtrot. Not the safe upgrade side, the entire update situation. Because people with Windows 10 are going to get 22H2. People with Windows 11 are going to get 22H2. People on Windows 10 are going to be asked to upgrade to 11 version 22H2. The updates are not the same. They introduce different sets of features even though they're labeled the same version numbers. All the software, Sophos, Drive Advisor, everything else, normally we can tell what version of Windows you're on by the version number, 22H2. But now with two different versions of Windows running the same version numbers, all of our software has to be tweaked because we don't know what version of Windows you're running. So let's say, for example, you came in for a Windows 11 upgrade. I can run a check and I can see what system hardware you have in our online system because you have a Schrock computer. And then I can go through and say, okay, you probably don't have Windows 11, or you could have Windows 11, but we don't, I'd love to be able to say you have Windows 11, you don't have Windows 11, which we could do 6 months ago. But now, of course, we're working on getting our software updated so that we can use the new versioning numbers that Microsoft is putting out, which they're talking about changing again next time and going to the quarterly update version. We don't know if that's going to actually happen or not, so we'll leave that problem for tomorrow. But I would strongly encourage you to take a look at Safe Upgrade this time around, especially if you don't normally do it. If you're normally like, my computer will take care of itself. Like I said, this is going to be a royal Charlie Foxtrot. If you don't know what a Charlie Foxtrot means, it's going to be a not very fun situation, okay? So Safe Upgrade promises not only to make it more fun, but to give you some support so that if something goes sideways, you've got someone there to help you out. All right. Thank you for the audio check, Winston. Yeah, Pat, sometimes stuff happens, but when that much stuff happens in one show, you gotta blame somebody, and I guess I'm the guy. All right. Tom is back from Kansas. Wait, back from Kansas? Like you're back in Nebraska from Kansas, or you're back on the show from Kansas? I don't know. Rick's on board. Mark's here. Roger's here. Bill made it back. Is there any downside to buy Bitcoin on Robinhood? The only downside is you can't take the Bitcoin off of Robinhood. So if you buy Bitcoin on Robinhood, it's locked there. You can sell it on Robinhood, but you can't transfer it to a private wallet. You can't send it to Coinbase, for example, to trade or something like that. You're locked into Robinhood for your trading. You can go into Robinhood with cash and you can come out of Robinhood with cash, but that's it. You can't go in with cash and come out with Bitcoin. Any known issues with iOS 15.6 for my phone? Upgrades keep failing to load. No, no issues that I'm aware of. In fact, all my kids' tech installed it just fine. So, obviously, if you haven't done so already, reboot the device. If the problem continues, there could be an issue with the hardware as well. Of course, what Apple is going to recommend is that you do a clean wipe of the phone and reinstall everything, like basically factory restore it. So if the reboot doesn't work, you may as well just try the factory restore first because Apple's going to make you do it. Make sure you have everything backed up, especially if you have like iCloud, that'd be great, but make sure everything is backed up. And then try again. And if it still fails after that, then you probably have a hardware issue and you're probably looking at an Apple Care warranty. Maybe you have bad RAM or bad storage medium, something like that. Yeah, and the funny thing is, all right, so that chair is beat. That chair is rough, but that's Gary Saddlemeyer's chair. So Roger said, I've taken that chair and rolled it out of the studio and like replaced it with a nicer, newer chair, and the next week I come back and it's right back here again every week because that's Gary's chair. And when you're Gary Saddlemeyer and you've been doing this as long as you have, you get to pick your chair. So that's Gary's chair that needs to be oiled. But apparently Gary doesn't move around a lot. So what ends up happening is whenever you go like this, that's the squeak. So if he turns to answer the phone, squeak, squeak, So after you guys said something to the microphone, I'm like, Roger, your chair is squeaking. He's like, ah. He sat like this. He was like, like, Roger, we can just change the chair before the show, if you want to do that. Whew. Excuse me. When I was young and lived in a college town, a motorcycle repair shop said I needed my muffler bearings replaced. I should have done it and then made sure to share the story with the newspaper. Your muffler bearings. Yeah, your discombobulator is discombobulating. We need to recombobulate it. I read Google's Android system is based on Linux. Why isn't there more Linux competition versus Microsoft or Apple in the PC environment? Well, Google's Android system follows a lot of the premises of Linux. It originally was based on Java, actually. But why isn't there more competition from Linux? Because Linux doesn't have a structured ecosystem for consumers. That's the big problem. Truth be told, we could save $100 a computer. You see these things that if you read the AARP magazines and stuff, you see the ads for like the computers for seniors, the large print, text on the screen and everything. They're just Linux computers, but they're Linux computers with a custom overlay that is branded by this company, and they sell them for like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. They're ridiculously priced. Never buy one. They're ridiculously priced, and it's just Linux, which is free. So the reason that Linux doesn't catch on is primarily because the entire user base are technical. They're technicians. They're tinkerers. They're guys who like to make things work. Truth be told, you can do just about everything on Linux that you can do on a PC and on Mac. But the problem is there's no cross-compatibility. So getting Microsoft Office for Linux, for example, is a problem. Maybe the caffeine is wearing off, guys. Sorry. Bear with me. The support structure isn't there. Where's the Linux repair shop? Where do you buy a Linux computer? How do you get a Linux computer? I can go to the Apple store and buy an Apple computer. I can go to Schrock and buy a PC. But where do you go to buy a Linux computer? Linux computers are for tinkerers. Tinkerers break things because they tinker. Nobody wants to warranty a tinkerer. It's not fun. Nobody wants to warranty Linux. Linux provides support through Red Hat Foundation for some versions of Linux, but there is no, like with Microsoft, for example, if there's a problem that we come up against that we can't figure out, we can turn to Microsoft. Well, with Linux, if there's a problem you can't figure out, you have to turn to the community, which the community is a very strong community of technical people who will look into problems and try to fix them, but it's not a company with a fiduciary responsibility to assist you. It's just a community of individual people. It's a decentralized community. So there are definitely advantages to Linux, but Linux gets hacked like any other OS. Why is there not more competition? Every tech I've ever had. Thor, have you ever thought about selling a Linux computer? Yes. Why aren't you doing it? No, it'd be a support nightmare. What do you mean? The first time that people get their new Schrock computer built on Linux and they go to load their Cricut, or they go to load their Epson printer, or they go to hook up their VR headset, or any number of things that you might do with a computer, and it doesn't work, what is this piece of garbage? And if you're making, we can make it dual boot, well then what's the point? Why am I screwing around with Linux if I'm just going to have it boot into Windows anyway? So if I have to put the Windows license on it, I may as well just have it run on Windows. So that's why there's not a lot of competition for it. Carolyn, I like Frank too. I think he's going to be with us for a while. In fact, my wife and his wife talk a little bit, and Frank is enjoying his position. In fact, Frank has already been promoted in his position. He's doing so well. So, yes, Frank is an amazing asset for the Papillion Service Center. Troubleshooter error says was resolved, but update still won't install. Yeah, Ronald, unfortunately, we're probably going to have to see that one in the Service Center then, if that's the case, to get it to install. The other thing that you can try is there's two ways to install updates. You can download the update through Windows Update, which is what you're trying to do now, or system administrators will actually go and download the update as an installable file and then install that. So Google download KB whatever and then find the download link. Make sure you're downloading from a Microsoft website, and download that patch to the computer as a file, and then run it from the local computer, see if that solves the problem. I'm kind of grasping at straws here, but that's the first thing I would try if you were in the service center in front of me. I would try to download it and install it that way. If that doesn't work, we definitely want to see it in the service center because you want to make sure you're getting your updates, and it sounds like it's not working properly. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, Aaron, I hear you. Apparently I need caffeine too. Oh, all right. So what else do we have going on? I was in the service center in Omaha. Tons of recycles dropped off in the Omaha Service Center. If you didn't know this, we do recycle computers. I talked this week about the Windows 11 hardware upgrades. We talked about the safe upgrade, making sure you guys get those. How many of those are left anyway? I haven't checked. Let me check real quick. I know we started with 600. All right, let's see here. We're down to 385. That's a pretty respectable drop for a couple days, actually. I always tell customers, we're not going to sell out today or anything. It's not like a hard sell. Like you don't have to rush to your computer right now and buy it. We still have 385. So we're not even at the halfway point yet. But when it gets right down to it, we sell out every year. Right before the update, we're usually sold out. But yeah, we this year, given how squirrely this was going to be, we really wanted to make sure that we limited the quantity. So trust me, guys, if I want to sell 1,000, I'd love to. But if something goes wrong, it's like it's a gamble where you're like, nothing should go wrong. But if something does go wrong, if Thor forgets to plug in the microphone, if any small thing goes wrong that snowballs into a big thing, we want to make sure that we have the capacity to deliver what we promised. And I know we can deliver 600 installs of Safe Upgrade in a day or two. I don't think we could do 1,000. I genuinely don't. I don't think we have enough Schrock desk seats to do it, honestly. Also, if this is something that you don't want to do yourself at home with Safe Upgrade, if you'd prefer to come into the service center, there is no need to drop off your computer right now. This update is not scheduled to be released until late September. So you've got a month. Don't drop your computer off now and say, just hold on to it until the update. We do have people that do that, not realizing that the update is like a month away. But we have to start talking about Safe Upgrade ahead of time, because if the day of the update, if I'm like, hey, time to do it. Number one, the radio show has a 1-week tape delay to link in, so they would just miss out. Number two, what happens if you miss the radio show that day? So we need 2 or 3 weeks to mention it so that we can get everybody in that wants to get in. Because if everybody who bought it last time, most of our Safe Upgrade users are repeat buyers. So we sold 500 last time, which was the limit. We upped it to 600 this time. Like I said, we're staffed a little better. We got Frank, so we're up to 600. So I guess if you look at it if we would have started with only 500, that would mean we'd have 285 left in stock. That would be really consistent with where we're at off the initial push. Those are the Schrock super customers that are like, yes, I know what it is. I'm going to get it. I do it every time. It's perfect. Then we have the regular Schrock customers who might miss the radio show or miss the email that we have to reach out to and be like, hey, you bought this last time. Is this something you want to do again? This is going to be a Charlie Foxtrot. You sure you don't want to do this? And then they'll jump on board. Then if we have any licenses left after that, then we send out general email basically and general text messages saying, hey, this is what we have. We have a few left. If you want them, they're here. If not, don't worry about it. But typically, we can move 500 of these things very easily just to the repeat buyers that buy them every time. And that says something about the software. If you're buying it every time, that says something about the software. I noticed during the radio show here, we sent the email, Wednesday? So during the radio show, I saw sales for multiples. So these are these are Schrock customers that have multiple computers at home that know they need a copy for each computer. Most of the sales that we got during the week, there were some multiples, but most of them were single units. People with just one computer. Just looking at the ones that have come through here really recently. Let's see. Yeah. And then here's Janice, trying to run the update now because, she didn't realize that you can't run it yet. It says it's dangerous to download. I downloaded it. It shows no evidence it was upgraded because it wasn't upgraded. So I'll respond to her. So anyway, these are the kind of things that we're used to seeing. But yeah, overall, I would expect us to probably get either sell out or get real close to selling out in about 2 weeks on Safe Upgrade. Chris just emailed me. Is my maintenance checkup bought in February still good through this month? I forgot all about it. And what size backup device do I need for my computer? You guys have my records, thanks. Okay, so Chris, the first thing is, of course, your maintenance certificate will be honored. I'm not a big fan of taking money from people and then telling them, oh, sorry, whatever you wanted to buy from us, you can't use now, so we're just going to keep your money. That's not cool. That's not something that I'm, from a business perspective, comfortable doing. So in my opinion, this is a gift certificate, and we do have to put a limit on that. There comes a point when you come back to me. We had a customer who had a subscription to Sophos, which was Endpoint 3 years ago, and they missed the conversion from Endpoint to Sophos somehow. And I don't know how you missed that conversion. I mean, literally, we thought we had everyone converted, but apparently there was one person that still was running the Endpoint software, and Endpoint was still protecting them because we were still paying the Endpoint bill to keep them protected. But they didn't have Sophos, and the Endpoint software is not what it used to be. So it's not as good a protection as Sophos, but they were still protected. Fast forward to today. Customer called into the Omaha Service Center and was told, well, you didn't have Sophos, so you didn't have Sophos this whole time. The customer says, I've been paying for Sophos for 3 years. I want a refund. Okay, reasonable position, right? The problem is it's a subscription. And so as a subscription, which we didn't know this person was there. And so it wasn't showing up in our Sophos records because they never made the conversion. Literally, we auto-converted people. So, I mean, I don't know how, if this person just turned off their computer for 6 months and then turned it back on and was like, hey, I've got Endpoint. I don't know how this happened. But it happened 3 years ago. And so, of course, we can do everything we can do, but the credit card companies don't let us refund beyond a year back. Especially if, number one, your card is expired and you moved on to another card, and number two, we've moved on to a new credit card provider in the last 3 years. So we literally can't refund you. So the current year, we said, listen, this current year that was just done on renewal, of course we will refund that. We refunded it. We offered the other 2 years as a refund of in-store credit. Customer has no interest in purchasing anything from us ever again in the future. They've made that abundantly clear. They don't want any in-store credit. We can't refund the other 2 years because we physically can't do it. We can't refund your card. Our credit card merchant processor will not allow us to process a refund to a credit card that doesn't have a matching charge to it. Why? Well, imagine if you owned a company and rather than actually paying on your credit card, you just ran refunds to your credit card all day long. Or imagine if you have an employee that was trying to steal from the company by refunding customer payments to their credit card rather than the customer's credit card and still marking them paid. Well, the system doesn't allow us to do that for that very reason. You can't do that. So, and we've tried to explain it. The customer's very upset, understandably so. I mean, this is embarrassing for everybody involved. That we missed one person of the 7,000 people that we migrated over, and we thought we had them all. We literally had an A/B list that we cross-referenced. I don't know how this person got missed, but they did. And so as a result, they were getting charged every year for a subscription for something they didn't have. So, on one hand, I want to say, I'm really sorry because we don't like to charge people for things they're not getting. But number two, it's 3 years ago. I mean, how I can't go back that far. I literally can't do it. And no other option was we offered in-store credit. We offered, we'll put Sophos on there. We'll give you a 3-year license for free. They're like, no, we don't want anything to do with you. So I don't know what the motivation was here, but it was frustrating. But anyway, as far as the email, I don't know how I got off on that tangent because Chris emailed me asking about a maintenance certificate. That's what it was. So yes, you can still use it. Just please do try to get it in pretty quickly because once it gets to be a year, we really start saying, okay, sorry, we can't do that anymore. As far as a backup device, um, it shows that you have two computers that you've had into us before. Only one of them has Drive Advisor installed, so we don't have hard drive data on the other one. Um, oh, I'm trying to bear with me while I try to pull this up. I have to find out how much data you have on your hard drive before I know what size of a hard drive that you'll need as a backup. So that's the limiting factor there. So if I say edit the asset, it's going to pull up your computer for me here, and I'll click on your Drive Advisor tab. So Drive Advisor doesn't tell us anything about what's on your computer. We just get aggregate numbers. So it tells me that, for example, your C drive is 100% healthy, that it is a hard drive, and it has 52% available storage. So it's green. It's good, because when you get under 10% available, it gets to be kind of scary. So what that would tell me is you have a C drive. It doesn't tell me what's your total storage. Your total storage is you have a 500 gig hard drive in there, or no, a 240. You have a 240 gig hard drive in there. So you have 120 gigs of storage. So I would say you need another 240, an identical size drive. Main reason being is when you do backups now, you don't just keep a single backup, you keep a history backup. So you want a little bit more room than you have. So I'd say a 500 gig hard drive a 500 gig external would be more than big enough. They're $99 for the modular ones at Schrock. You can go as big as you want. The larger you go, the more likely they are to fail, though, and the more fragile they are. So 500 gigs should be more than sufficient for you, Chris. So I'll also send that to you in an email just in case you're not watching the program right now. But I wanted to make sure we got you answered there. All right. Good morning, Al. Welcome back, lovely Kimberly. Oh, let's see here. Scrolling down. Looking for any comments that I've missed. Okay. I bought a computer and Canon printer last year from Schrock. The printer doesn't respond most of the time. It says offline. I've just been using my old HP printer. I'm going to give you guys a call, wondering if I should just run a cable instead of wireless. All right, so when you have a wireless printer and it's saying it's offline, there could be a few reasons for that. The most common one is the power of the printer is off. If the device is turned off, obviously it's not on the wireless network. Number two, if your Wi-Fi router is having issues, which I just went through this in my house 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. What I ended up figuring out was it was actually a device connected to the router that was causing the router to have performance issues. So it took a lot of troubleshooting to get to that point, probably 2 or 3 hours worth. But if your router is starting to go bad on you, that is going to impact the signal to the printer. So if you have an older router, maybe it's just a wireless N router, that printer is wireless AC, so it's got all the high-end capacity to communicate, but the router doesn't support it. Your computer has all the high-end capacity to communicate, but your router doesn't support it. As a rule of thumb, you want to replace your router at least every 5 years. Or I should say most every 5 years? No, at least. After 5 years, your router is no longer supported by the manufacturer. You no longer get firmware updates to protect you against vulnerabilities. So you need to replace it every 5 years or sooner. So if it's been more than 5 years since you replaced your router, or you don't remember when you bought your router, we can, if you want to give us a call in the service center, you can give us the model number of the bottom of your router. We can look it up and we can tell you if it's still supported, or if it's end of life. And if it's end of life, then you need to buy a new router. So that's pretty straightforward. I mean, you can literally Google it and it'll tell you whether or not it's end of life. Running a cable would solve the problem also. Obviously, it bypasses the router, but that's what I'm saying is if you can run a cable and everything is nice and stable, it's probably not the printer. I mean, it could be the printer, I guess. We'd want to check that. How far is it from the router? Is the printer defective? It's got a 1-year warranty, so if it's under warranty, we definitely want to replace it for you while it's under warranty. Things along those lines. So there's some stuff to check out there. But Ronnie, if you want us to, we could schedule an on-site to come out and take a look at the house too for you. Why not talk about the $52 billion chip bill that is up now to $704 billion? Last night, Ron, I had just a moment where I'm tired of reading the news. I'm just tired. Me knowing about it isn't going to change it. I'm of the opinion that nothing is going to substantively change with this government for the next 2 years, even with the Republicans, if they have a red wave, even if that happens. Um, you still got a president that's not going to sign anything, so nothing is going to change. In fact, it's going to continue to probably get worse, which is super depressing. So I'm choosing to focus my energy on the things that I can control. I can make sure my customers have secure computers. I can make sure that my customers have updated systems. I can make sure that I'm saving you as much money as possible by getting you upgraded to Windows 11 and trying to convince you how important it is that you do that, even though a lot of you don't want to do it because you don't see the immediate need to do it, how important it is, how much safer Windows 11 is, and how much money you're going to save by upgrading, especially while we have it on special. If you don't need any hardware, if your computer's compatible but you have Windows 10, you walk in the door right now, it's literally $125 off. It's not going to be that way in September. We can't keep selling labor at half price at a time when we're paying our people, 12% annualized pay increases. Just can't keep doing that. So it's a special. It's going to run until it runs, then it'll be done. But yeah, so those are the things that I can control. Those are the things that I can make sure that my family is taken care of. I can make sure that we have food in our house, that we have an emergency fund, that we have some spare fuel and a generator, that we have all these stupid things that, I wouldn't go so far as to call me a prepper. I don't have a bunker. I don't have enough water stored to keep us all going for a month. There's a negative connotation that goes along with that being a prepper thing. The problem is you can't withdraw completely from the world around you and still be an active participant in it. So what does that mean? That means I'm still contributing to my 401k, even though I have no idea where this market is going. And the risks are just enormous right now. I'm not hoarding motherboards, even though the potential for a war with Taiwan is greater than it's ever been right now. Yeah, I'm worried about it, but I'm not going to change the company's financial trajectory on a gut worry that things have been rough with Taiwan before. Things might just cool off, or things could escalate. There was a Taiwanese official associated with the missile defense system that was found dead in a hotel room. Could have been a coincidence, but there aren't very many coincidences in that business. China is interrupting Taiwanese shipping right now with their naval drills. How long will the naval drills interrupt shipping for? We don't know. China needs Taiwanese chips too. So it's not like that they can go forever and block Taiwan forever. I don't think a full-on invasion of Taiwan is really in the cards right now. I don't think that's something that's palatable to China right now. But they might take those little islands that are right outside of Taiwan that Taiwan claims. They're heavily fortified, so there would be a fight to take them, but China would win. It's kind of like this Ukraine thing where, I don't know, guy. I just so you know, I'm not just following the trends. I expressed some misgivings about the Ukraine situation way back in the beginning, where I was like, it's very not cool what Russia's doing. I totally get that, and we could all have a discussion as to whether or not Russia's justified in its fears about NATO expansion or whatever. But this is about taking territory for Russia. This is about Russia gaining territory and gaining strategic territory. And for America, it's not about winning. For all the Western allies, this is about bleeding Russia. This is not about Ukraine winning the war and taking their land back. Because if it was, it'd be done. But it's not. There hasn't even been a counteroffensive. Even though Russian attacks have lessened, there hasn't even been a counteroffensive. Because Ukraine is tapped. They don't have that many. They don't have enough soldiers. They don't have enough soldiers. So we need better tech. We need more long-range missile systems and things like that. So the world gives them just enough to fight Russia to a standstill. Not enough to roll them back, just enough to stop the advance until Russia commits more. And then we give just a little bit more. This is about bleeding Russia. This isn't about Ukrainian independence. And any politician that says it is just lying. It's not. It's clearly not. If it was, then there would be consequences to Russia. And I don't mean these economic mamby-pamby consequences. I mean, there's an oil tanker carrying Russian oil and we sank it. It's gone kind of consequences. But we're not going to do that for a lot of reasons, for a lot of legitimate reasons. So, what are we doing? We're Russia. God bless them for their artillery. I mean, they have enough stockpiled artillery shells. Wow, who'd have thought? So I don't know. It's not about, so you have all this stuff with China, all this stuff with Russia happening. Everything in the world is crazy. And what I'm finding is, yes, I do read the news. I don't obsess over it anymore like I used to, but I do read it. I do try to understand what's going on. I don't think the Fed is about to pivot. I don't think the Fed was ever about to pivot. The jobs number seems fantastical that came out. Like, it was a sigma 6 deviation from what was expected. Like, a sigma 6 deviation, I think the odds are better of an asteroid destroying all life on Earth tomorrow than a sigma 6 deviation. I mean, it was so much better than expected. When you dig into the numbers in the jobs report, there's a lot of people in there with multiple jobs and a lot of full-time jobs that have become part-time jobs. So you see a lot of businesses trying to economize by paying people, full-time people, less and replacing them with multiple part-time people that they can not pay benefits to. That's pretty much what it comes down to. So there's churn going on in the economy and the jobs market, but it's resulted in an increase in jobs. And I guess you can't have a recession when you have an increase in jobs is the new rule. It certainly is hard to make the argument that technically we're in a technical recession, but it's hard to make the argument that you're in a recession that you can feel when you're adding this many jobs. Like that would be economic growth when you're adding jobs, right? How can you have economic growth while you have economic contraction? Something is not right. I think we all know what it is. Something's not right. The numbers aren't right. Now there's even rumors that the gas prices, the gas demand numbers are being manipulated to lower the cost of energy. So in other words, when there's every so often there's a report that comes out about how much gasoline is in storage and how much is being used, things like that. If the amount of gasoline in storage drops, that indicates that the refineries are not replenishing it fast enough, that demand is increasing, and therefore the prices are probably going to go up because in the future we're going to have a shortage. But if the storage numbers go up, that means we have this glut of storage, which means we have lower demand, which probably means prices are going to come down. So if the reality is the tanks are almost empty, but we just tell everybody that they're full, we've lowered gas prices, have we not? I'm not saying that's what's happening. I have no evidence that's what's happening. I don't even have any stories that I've read that would indicate how that could happen. The allegation is out there, though. And it's like, on one hand, you got to take it with a grain of salt because people allege things all the time. But something about these jobs numbers is not adding up to me. I'm seeing it at Schrock. 6 months ago, we put up an ad for a position, and we would be lucky to get one respondent a week applying for a position. We put up an ad for the Omaha Service Center, and I'm getting multiple applicants a day, multiple qualified applicants a day. Where are the people coming from? Where? I don't know. I don't get it. So anyway, it's a really interesting dynamic to look at. And Nebraska's a terrible place to study this because economically here we're pretty much still water. It's the housing crisis. Oh gosh, and Nebraska prices drop like 2%. The housing boom. Oh gosh, Nebraska prices go up like 10%. It's not like the coast where it's like boom and bust, and destitute and then obscene wealth. It's just kind of still water. So it's a terrible place to anecdotally study it. But anecdotally studying it, I'm seeing increased applicants for jobs in Nebraska. Don't know what that means nationally. I read that the chip makers want more input in cash from automakers on the chips they use. Chip makers, we barely have the ability to power everything we have now. Yeah, so there is a change happening. There's a realization that microchips are a national defense asset in the same way steel is. A lot of people wonder why we have why can we have tariffs on steel and things like that? Like why do we protect the steel industry in America? Well, because without the steel industry, you can't make tanks and battleships and airplanes. Or not that airplanes are made of steel, but you can't make the things you need to make without steel. The same reason we have a giant underground helium storage reserve to this day, in case we have to fly a bunch of dirigibles. We need helium. So the U.S. government has stored a ton of helium underground in a cave. They just pump the cave full of helium. It's a very light place. Everybody who's stationed there talks in a really high voice. But I mean, we have we have a strategic petroleum reserve because we know if we ever went to war, there was ever a problem, and supply chains of oil was interrupted, we would need some time to get things online, so we have an SPR to do that. Now, the SPR has been used recently to manipulate the price of gasoline by releasing oil from the strategic reserve to the point where some people are arguing national security is imperiled, but people are starting to realize that microprocessors are the 21st century defense asset. You have to have them. And the country that has the best microprocessors is the strongest country. Because the processors in the missiles can fly faster, straighter, truer, avoid things faster, have the best radars, you have the best tech. And the country with the best tech military wins right now. So with that said, there's an understanding that it is a terrible position to be in to have all chip manufacturing happening in Taiwan under threat of the Chinese government, where the Chinese government can literally, the one thing the Chinese government has is people. So it's great if you have the best tech. Maybe your military has a 20-to-1 force multiplier or 100-to-1 force multiplier, where the technology allows one soldier to have the battlefield impact of 100 soldiers. Okay? So that's how the U.S. fights wars right now. We take small groups of people with really good training and really good tech to have outsized impact on the battlefield. If you take our tech away, all we just have are a few people that are really well trained. Still effective, but they're not multiplied on the battlefield. So China has the most to gain by taking away force multipliers because they've got their own force that's very multiplied. They have a lot of people. Now, on the other hand, with Taiwan, something like that, it would be a difficult invasion. It would be very hard to for China to actually take Taiwan. Not impossible, just hard. And Taiwan has already said that if China decides to attack Taiwan, they will scuttle their chip factories so that China does not get them. Then the whole world is screwed. Literally screwed. No new cars, no toasters, no nothing. Because almost all the microprocessors in the world are made in Taiwan. Okay, so now the companies in Taiwan that make the microprocessors want to open plants in America. Why? It's smart on their part for continuity. If China attacks and they scuttle their factories in Taiwan, they can continue to produce in America and export around the world and stay in business. Smart. Chip factories are expensive, so they want the U.S. government to kick in something into the kitty to get the chip factories going so that we can start producing the chips onshore in America. Okay. Long term, this is a defense win for the United States, a strategic win. Long term, it is a strategic win for the chip makers. So there is the argument, this is where the CHIPS bill came from, there is the argument that there is the potential here for some state funding to come in, maybe not to pick winners and losers, but to provide a fund for companies that wish to produce chip factories in America. Okay, that has become a complete boondoggle now. And on top of that, the Republicans got tricked. Again, I mean, Can you even call it tricked? When Lucy picks up the football, can Charlie Brown even say it's Lucy's fault anymore? But if you support the CHIPS bill, Republicans, we're not going to do a reconciliation bill. So the Republicans support the CHIPS bill, and now there's a reconciliation bill with Joe Manchin. What? Yeah. So anyway, try not to get too political, even during the aftershock. But it's just you can really look at the world around you and really there's so many things to be afraid of and to be worried about that there's really something to be said for creating your own oasis of stability to the extent that you can. Worry about the things that you can worry about today. Leave the things for tomorrow that are tomorrow. And the things you can't control at all, like whether or not China invades Taiwan or takes an island or launches a missile into the ocean or whatever, nothing we can do about that. Nothing we can do about the Biden administration. Nothing we can do about inflation. The only thing that we can do is deal with it the best way we can. So at Schrock, how are we doing that for our customers? We have a lot of customers who are on fixed incomes. So we try to do things like Safe Upgrade. So instead of you coming into the service center, you can save $30 and do it yourself at home if that's something you want to do. And then of course we have people who want to save the $30, but they still want the technician to do it. So they buy Safe Upgrade and then they call us and say, I can't get it to run. And we end up doing a Schrock desk and basically doing it for you anyway. But you tried. We say, try and save $30. And if not, we'll be here to help you. It's one of those things. But if you bring it in, we had to charge you the $30 to put it on the bench if you want to do that. So, we try to do things like Safe Upgrade. We try to do things like Freedom Modular, where you can lease a computer rather than buying it, so you have a monthly payment. One of my employees asked me, Thor, how are we going to handle this with inflation? And I'm like, well, this is the beautiful part about it. So the computer you get today is going to cost more in the future than it does today. So when you do a Freedom Modular purchase, you're locking in your payment at, let's say, $30 a month for 3 years, and you can keep going at the end of that. You can keep going indefinitely if you wanted to. Or you can trade up and get a new computer, right? And if you trade up and get the new computer, you're going to get the new pricing, so your payment might go up a little bit because the price of the computer has gone up or whatnot. But you can stay with the computer you've got, and because it's a modular desktop, we just showed you, they last for years. So, you could stay with this computer for 6 years and be just fine. And it's got a warranty on it the whole time. You don't have to buy the extended warranties and worry about that. You get a free maintenance checkup every year. Wow, look at all the savings that you're getting. You get a Schrock desk subscription. Literally, you get everything at one low price every month. We're working on these ideas, trying to give our customers a way to engage with us and do business with us in an affordable way for them in a time when everything is less affordable. Which leads me to the most important thing of the entire aftershock, porcos. Porcos. So, Hy-Vee delivers groceries, and Hy-Vee delivered the wrong groceries to our house one day. And whoever ordered these groceries was Kimberly Schlinger instead of Kimberly Schrock, right? So they delivered the wrong groceries to us. And it was like a few pounds of ground lamb. I don't know, what are you doing with ground lamb? A few pounds of ground pork, some spaghetti sauce, things like that, and some ground beef. And so meat's expensive, right? So we just put the meat in the freezer, because Hy-Vee can't take it back once they deliver it to your house. They can't come pick it up and take it back to the store. So we put it in the freezer, whatever, and I don't think we just assumed it was all ground beef. I didn't really read the labels. So my wife sends me downstairs one day to get a pack of ground beef out of the freezer in the basement. And I go down there and I pick up this pack of ground meat and I look at it and it says ground lamb. I hate lamb. I really don't like mutton. I don't like lamb. I don't like the taste of it. I don't like lamb. I just don't. Never have. Kim, why do we have ground lamb in the basement? She's like, what are you talking about? Oh, it must have been from that Hy-Vee order that we got, because I wouldn't have bought ground lamb. I wouldn't have either. That's crazy. So then the other day, I go down there and I'm looking for, again, ground beef or something, and I pick up a pack of ground meat and it says ground pork. I'm like, wait, did you buy ground pork? And my wife's like, is that a thing? Like ground pork? And so we have this pack of ground pork, and meat's expensive, right? So it's like, some families can't even afford meat. And I'm like, we're not going to throw the meat away. We're going to use it for something. What can we make with ground pork? So we're Googling it, right? We're getting on Duck and we're searching. And sure enough, you can make Korean dishes with ground pork or Korean dishes with ground pork. My wife's like, I don't know how to cook Korean dishes. Like, well, what are we going to do with pork? And I was like, well, ground meat is ground meat, right? Throw some taco seasoning into it. You make some walking tacos, and then we can make, well, let's have porcos for dinner. So porcos are tacos made with pork. Porcos. And, I can't, it probably isn't something that we'll do again intentionally. It wasn't bad. And we didn't waste the meat. We went into the tummies. But I don't know that it was something. Porcos might not become a staple in the Schrock household. But yes, porcos. So if you find yourself with pounds of ground pork and you don't know what to do with it, porcos. Alrighty. Why not sell a 2-tier secure updater? The second would be less priority. Customers would have to understand the difference. There is some stuff with secure updater that we're looking at doing in the future here. Depending on what Microsoft does. If Microsoft goes to a quarterly feature upgrade, I'm sorry, but no customer is going to buy Safe Upgrade 4 times a year. And then they're going to have a big upgrade once every 3 years. So even if we assume the small upgrades are successful, from a revenue perspective as a company, we have to replace all that revenue from the secure updater or the safe upgrades that we would have sold in the past. But we only have a safe upgrade once every 3 years now. So how does that work? So what we talked about doing is the possibility, and this is like sketches on a chalkboard right now, guys, so don't take this to the bank, of introducing a new feature to Secure Updater that would also handle Windows updates. The technology's out there to do it. We would be replicating it into our own technology because I don't like trusting third-party tech on my customers' computers. Sophos is one thing, but Billy Bob's Windows Update service, no. We know how to do it. We just gotta sit down and make the software and test it and do all that stuff. The thing is, it would create another use case for Secure Updater. It would reinforce the people who are already subscribing at $30 a year. Maybe we raise it to $35 a year for the renewal instead of $30 because of the new functionality that it's going to do. There's also the possibility of we've talked about creating one Schrock application you install on your computer, and then within that application you can subscribe to different things. So every Schrock application comes with Drive Advisor functionality. Every Schrock application comes with a Secure Updater trial for 15 days. You can subscribe to get a full year. And then, of course, it would loop in the Sophos protection as well. So there's lots of different ways that we're looking at trying to keep our software relevant, keep it current, and have it address the current needs that are being created by changes, especially changes that Microsoft is making. So these are discussions that are happening with Schrock Interactive behind the scenes right now, and job postings are up for people with the skills required to make these changes to the software that we would need to have made for the stuff that we don't have on staff already. So Ron, we're always looking at different things. All right, I read that chip makers want more input and cash from automakers for the chips they use. Chip makers put up all the cash to support and develop the chips and feel it's a lopsided arrangement. Everybody uses microchips. And so you could argue that some industries will benefit more from having domestic microchips than others. Auto industry will definitely benefit. But I think the thing that a lot of people are missing is when I was a kid, when you get a toy, or somebody would throw a radio away in the trash, and I'd walk past their trash can and I'd see a radio sitting there, I would grab the radio because I'd think I could maybe open it up and maybe fix it, right? So I would open it up and tinker around with it and try to fix it. Maybe if there's a tube in it, I'd replace the tube, do whatever I had to do to try to fix it. Maybe there's a wire that broke off or something, I can put it back on. Everything's a microchip now. So a kid that opens up the radio now just sees microchips. There's nothing to fix anymore, unless you know how to fix microchips or replace them. So the challenge is now microprocessors are invading everything. There are very few products left that don't have any microprocessors in them. But the processor, for example, that goes into a car is way less powerful than the processor that goes into your computer, even a cheap computer. Like the processor that goes into the car could very well be early 2000s tech. It's that slow. Now, great example is the mirror thing that with my F-150 I talked about last week. I can't get my mirror fixed because the controller circuit switch has a microchip in it, and they can't get the chip, so they can't make the switch. This is a switch that folds mirrors in. Why does it need a microchip? Well, I'm sure there's a reason. But microchips are going into everything. So I think having this production domestic, I try not to be negative, but I think a lot of people haven't made the mental shift yet that we're moving from a world of abundance and surety into a world of shortage and inavailability. So the alternative of not having it done in America is you don't have any at all. You go without. Nobody wants to go without. So there are definitely industries that are going to benefit more than others from the chip stuff, for sure. And the 700 billion thing is just a boondoggle. I mean, it's a giveaway. It's going to get passed anyway. I may as well get my pork in there. I want some porcos, you know. Yeah, it's the inflation between that and the inflation bill and everything. It's the inflation. Yeah. Understandable, Thor. It's like the big drive to install charging stations for electric vehicles everywhere. We barely have the ability to power everything we have now. You have to deal with what you can control. Yeah, this is true. North Korea said they would have 100,000 volunteers they're willing to send to Ukraine to help Russia. Interesting, the days we live in. I bet they have 100,000 volunteers. Will you feed them while they're there too, please? Because they're like really hungry. My rule number 1, if my gut tells me something doesn't seem right, then I take a breath, take a wait, and see attitude. Very few things in life have to be done immediately. This is true, Ronald, which is why I told you that there's 385 safe upgrades still left in stock. It's not like, right this second, if you don't buy it right now, they'll be gone. It's not like that. But I'm just saying there's only 384 left now. They just went down. So, they call it scarcity in the marketing industry, creating scarcity. Hurry, time's almost up. We're gonna run out. We're not gonna run out this week. Stop reading or watching the news and concentrate on being the best computer shop in the world. There's something to be said for that, Richard. There's beyond just the sense that your comment makes. Even in the computer repair industry, there are so many different aspects of it. There's corporate, there's data recovery, there's consumer, there's security, there's hardware, there's software. There's all these different aspects of it, and you can specialize in any of them or all of them. The challenge sometimes in our industry is that companies tend to become inch deep, mile wide, because they're trying to get any revenue they can get in the door because there's not a lot of revenue to go around. So you see companies expanding into all these areas, hoping to get one thing here or one thing there. At Schrock, we've made some real tactical decisions about the services that we offer. You probably haven't noticed too much, and we still do everything we've done before, but I pulled back on some of the marketing on some of the things that we do, because some of the things that we do that are more labor involved are nowhere near as profitable. One example I'll give you is website design. The cost for coders has gone up 40% this year. People are not willing to pay 40% more for websites. And we have one client in particular that we work with. And it's very frustrating because they get angry with us over and over that their website's not done, and it's been a long period of time and the website's not done. But every time they ask for a change, then they take it back to a committee, and then the committee has to look at it, and the committee makes a decision, and the committee says do this. Then the representative brings it to us, and we make the change, send it back to the committee. The committee says, well, we don't like it, do it the other way, and on it goes. And it's not our fault that it's not done. if you would just tell us what you want one time and we'll get it done. And the best part, best part is when you do a website and somebody asks for a change and they don't understand that like your browser has a cache, like it remembers what it's seen before. So when you refresh the page, it doesn't refresh the file. So I asked you to make that change, you didn't do it, and we can all clearly see that it's done, but the customer is just hitting refresh, and we're like, use the control refresh. Oh, well, in my phone it's not refreshed, and we're like, it's the same problem. Your phone has a cache too. Gotta clear it. Gotta clear it. And so it's like these are the over and over. And it'd be different. It's like you could expect that with every customer. That's fine. But it's when they do it over and over and over, and they keep coming back saying, "Why hasn't it changed?" And you keep telling them, "Your cache. You have to clear your cache." So there are some aspects of our business that are a lot less profitable than they used to be. And web design is one of them. In fact, there was a job that came up for the city of Lincoln to redo the library website for the city of Lincoln, Nebraska, and we had the opportunity to bid on it, and we no-bid it, just because it's not worth it. At this point, my coders are worth more to me refining Schrock's other internal products, our online processes, our safe upgrade software, our secure updater software. That time is better spent internally on products that my customers are dependent on than it is externally trying to grab the next available website job that is going to come in that we're going to do and barely make a profit on because the cost of labor is so high. Because everybody thinks you can just send them off to India and get them done for like nothing. And you can, but you're not going to like what you get. So that's what it is. So yeah, I mean, it's like there are things that in this world that are going up in price dramatically that you may not see because you don't deal with every day. But we're making decisions as a company as far as what we market and what we put forward so that we can make sure that we're serving the largest number of people possible in the most profitable way possible to preserve the business's integrity going through what is a completely uncertain time. I mean, I'm wishing for the days that I was young and stupid and carefree, because that would sure be a fun vacation, wouldn't it? Okay. I know Tesla is in a learning phase, but they keep hitting motorcycles and vehicles parked on the side of the road. There have been deaths. Yeah. They're saying, one of the jokes about Tesla is that's the largest beta test ever conducted on humanity with a vehicle. And there have been deaths because the Teslas are literally driving themselves. There are, like, my F-150 will drive itself, but you're required to pay attention. And there are systems in place to enforce that, and not tongue-in-cheek enforce it, but to actually enforce it. With good reason. The other day I was driving my F-150 down Dodge Street, had it in auto drive mode. It was just cruising down the road. I was in the left lane, doing slightly faster than the posted speed limit. And apparently earlier in the day, somebody had hit the brakes and kind of skidded, and it had created like a semicircle skid mark. My truck interpreted that as a curve in the road and started to steer me into the wall until it saw the other line and saw the two lines intersected, and the computer said, that doesn't make any sense. Bong, 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 bong. Alarms went off everywhere. Now, by the time the alarms went off, it would have been too late for me to correct anything if I wouldn't have been paying attention. But I was able, as soon as it jerked me left toward the wall, I was like, no, jerked it back right again. But in a Tesla, where you're buying a car that's been advertised to be self-driving, and you have a summon feature, you can be like, come pick me up at the curb, Tesla. Yeah, you expect it. Bitcoin info. I don't know. I want to be a real man, and I want a self-driving car. I grew up in the 80s. I watched Knight Rider. I want Kit, Bitcoin updates. No, it's just middling, going the same path, basically right down the middle. We're in crypto winter right now. I think a lot of the bad news is behind us. I think there's upside ahead of us, but no one knows what's going to happen with interest rates. That's going to be a big determining factor of what keeps a lid on the price of Bitcoin. If the rates come down, Bitcoin's going to go through the roof. If the rates go up, the Bitcoin will stay in its trading range it's in now, I think. All right, guys, got to wrap her up. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you being here for the Aftershock. We will see you all again next Sunday. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Safe Upgrade from SchrockInnovations.com. Also, if you have one of our computers, one of our modular desktops, the time is now to get it in for that upgrade. Don't wait because you're waiting for us to get chips, because people are going to do exactly that. And at the end of the sale, we're going to have a bunch of people coming in saying, but I want the sale, but you don't have any chips, so can I get an extension? And we're going to say, we already extended it for a month for you. So, because that's why we extended it last month. We can't keep extending it every month. We got to put a line somewhere. The line is the end of the month. So make sure you get that computer in if it's something you want to get done. Give us a call. We can put you in line. We'll figure something out if you can't go without the computer, but we have chips coming in every day. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next weekend.